Spending. Is that the big lesson from the primary that changed history? The unknown candidate, David Brat, kicking out Republican House Majority Leader Eric Cantor. One of Brat's key campaign promises, slashing spending and our debt. Joining us for this one is Emily Tish Sussman. Welcome. But first to John. Is the message here, start cutting or we'll cut you?
Yeah, and don't forget Joni Ernst in Iowa. She ran on the fact that she castrated pigs, and she's going to D.C. There's really nothing I can say here that's not PG.
You're probably the only one on this panel who's done the same, I'm sure, down in Texas.
I am from West Texas. Grew up near a pig farm. The analogy is great. If you're going to do that in D.C., cut pork spinning up there, you better have a Valerian sword. The reason that these Tea Party candidates, whether you like these guys or not, they stand for something. And most politicians go up there and they stand for nothing. They're anybody's dog will hunt. They'll go wherever the wind blows. All they want to do is get reelected. And the Tea Party candidates, to their credit, will tell you exactly what they want to do and how they're going to go about accomplishing that. And I think that's why they've gotten such passionate support. And I think it is an underswell in America that's growing.
Emily, is this a sign that Americans are really getting serious about spending and cutting debt?
So I think everybody wants to read into Eric Cantor's defeat because it is truly stunning. But I think at the end of the day, he just forgot the cardinal rule. All politics are local. He was not paying attention to his district. They felt like he was running for Speaker of the House rather than running to represent them again. Remember, in the redistricting, he actually lost a large portion of his district that knew him when he had been around more. And he brought in another part of the district that was more conservative and rural. So he thought it was actually going to help him hold the seat, but it ended up working against him. It was more conservative, and they didn't know him at all.
Well, Gary B., the real message, and David Brat didn't spend much money to spread it, was cut spending. Washington has to cut spending.
Exactly, Brenda. But I think that was a smaller part of a bigger message. If you dig a little deeper and look on his website, is why do we want to cut spending? It's because we want to limit the size of government. That's what he's really after. I mean, right there on davidbrat.com or whatever the name of his website is, he said government doesn't have a revenue problem. It has a spending problem. And I think we've seen that. And I think, you know, to Emily's point, yes, all politics is local. And I think what the local people even saw there in the Richmond area was this guy is kind of a big government Republican. We need something that represents a smaller government kind of thing out there, or at least a limited government. We've seen, and people are now sick of things like spending all this money on the VA and having horrible returns, on Obamacare, which is a bust, on Medicare and Social Security, which is broke. I think the message is starting to resonate. We want to have limited government, and that means we're spending too much, and then we want to also cut the debt.
Tracy, somebody wittier than I said that David Brat was Eric Cantor's term limit. I mean, finally, we're getting to the point where if you don't listen to your constituents on spending, on the debt, you're out of there.
I mean, 13 years. I can't imagine doing anything for 13 years, and he has been, that's how long he's been in office.
We expect you to be on our show for at least that.
Well, thankfully, we got a bunch more years ahead of us here. But so 13 years, he's out. I think he was resting on his, britches, going to Washington, going to Wall Street. Basically, he had Wall Street in his Rolodex, and he was kind of like a high flyer. And I think to Emily's point, he forgot about his purpose there. Wall Street, though, loses a friend, and I'm very curious to see how this plays out because Eric Cantor was a big friend of Wall Street, helped Wall Street along the way, and now we have a guy like David Brat who actually kind of disdains Wall Street, and you wonder how that's going to play out in the end.
Jonas, what's your take on all this?
It's a little of the 2 points from the lovely ladies of the show, which is he wasn't kissing enough babies and he was definitely kissing too much Wall Street. But, however, I'm not saying that's a bad thing necessarily. Look, Cantor was for a lot of stuff that is, you know, the populist message we heard out of this new guy, Brat, sounds like Elizabeth Warren. It's like, don't fund the XM Bank, don't give Boeing stock fell this week because Cantor lost. Like, you know, there's definitely some corporate welfare that was going on from Republicans, and that's under attack as well. It's that we don't want even that side of government spending. So I think that was a big focus of it. But I'm not against giving the banks money to stop the economy from collapsing. So I think the Cantors of the world made the economy work, even though we don't like the way the sausage is made in the hinterlands of Virginia. Unfortunately, we're about to see what's going to happen when we don't vote in those kind of things when we have a crisis, and it might not be as pretty as it went down this last time.
And it's the big things like Social Security and Medicare that really have to be cut. So we'll see if they get around to that. All right. Thanks, everybody.